All right, let's talk about one of the biggest conversations happening in software right now, AI-powered code refactoring. Is this the magic bullet that's finally going to kill technical debt, or is it just really, really expensive autocomplete?
You see this everywhere, right? On social media, in team meetings, all the way up to the boardroom. The hype is absolutely deafening, and the fear is pretty real for a lot of folks.
To get to the bottom of it, we've got to look past the flashy headlines and dig into what the data is actually telling us and what developers are experiencing on the ground. So we're going to look at the promise, what's really being delivered, and how this is all shaking out. Let's start with that big promise.
First up, let's talk about the dream. That powerful promise these tools are making to every developer who's ever felt like they're drowning in a sea of technical debt.
Oh man, we have all been there. You get a request for what seems like a simple little feature, and suddenly it's a multi-sprint epic that nobody wants to touch. Why? Because you're afraid you might break something ancient and critical hiding in some dusty corner of the codebase. That is the pain AI promises to just make go away.
And look, the numbers they're throwing around are pretty compelling. Tools like Augment Code are promising results like this, up to 40% faster code review cycles. The idea is that if you let an AI handle all the grunt work, your changes become way more systematic, which they say can also lead to a massive drop in regression bugs. So how do they actually pull this off? Well, this isn't your basic search and replace. We're talking about modern AI assistants that analyze the code's real structure, the abstract syntax tree. So they actually understand things like variable scope and dependencies. They can automate all that tedious but super critical work that goes into making code better.
Okay, that's the sales pitch. It sounds amazing, right? But what does the hard evidence actually say? Let's dive into a major study that really puts all these claims to the test.
So researchers from the NARA Institute of Science and Technology, they looked at over 15,000 refactoring operations. They wanted to get a really clear, data-driven picture of where these AI agents are crushing it, and, maybe more importantly, where they're falling short. This is where the myth really meets reality.
And what they found is this. This clear division of labor is starting to emerge. Humans, we're still the ones driving the big picture stuff, the architectural changes, the tricky API designs. The AI agents, though, they are absolute masters of what you might call code hygiene. They enforce consistency, they standardize names, they check types. And the data, it backs this up in a really fascinating way. This chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. You can see humans are still doing significantly more of that high-level architectural refactoring. AI agents, they do some of it, for sure, but where they really dominate is that low-level cleanup. So they aren't the architects, not yet. Think of them more like extremely efficient janitors for our code. But, and this is a huge but, there's a hidden cost. Over half of all the refactors that AIs do happen in what the study calls tangled commits. That's where cleanup code gets all mixed in with new features or bug fixes. And that just makes code reviews way more complicated and slower for the humans who have to untangle it all.
Okay, so knowing all this, the good and the bad, how are the best teams actually using these tools to get ahead, without getting totally bogged down?
See, the goal isn't to replace developers, it's to give them a brand new, powerful tool. The model that's working is having smaller, sharper teams that wield AI like a force multiplier. They automate all the tedious stuff so they can focus their brain power on what really, truly matters.
So this is the playbook. It's a tactical, step-by-step approach that lets teams use the AI's power while keeping the risk low. It's all about smart delegation, not blind trust. You start small, you give it super clear instructions, and you always have a human review the final output. The AI suggests, the human decides. End of story. Of course, it's not always a smooth ride. One developer on Reddit put it perfectly. He said when you rely too much on AI for really complex debugging, it can actually be counterproductive. You get stuck in this loop of suggestions that seem plausible, but they're not really solving the root problem. You're just spinning your wheels really, really fast. And that right there brings us to the single most important takeaway from this entire explainer, the evolving and frankly completely irreplaceable role of the human developer in this whole new world. This analogy it perfectly captures where we are with AI right now. It's a brilliant tool for execution. It can perform tasks at a speed that is just mind-boggling, but it has no vision. It doesn't understand the why behind any of the code. And this leads to a critical consequence that we just can't ignore. The value is shifting. Think about it. The tasks we often give to junior developers, writing boilerplate, doing simple refactoring, those are the exact things that AI is getting amazing at. So the new premium is on experienced judgment, on the person who can guide the AI and critically review what it spits out.
Because here's the thing you have to remember. At its core, AI is a really, really smart mimic. It's just copying patterns it has seen before. What it can't do is replicate these uniquely human skills. It doesn't understand shifting business needs, it can't feel empathy for a frustrated user, and it definitely can't make the tough strategic trade-offs that define great software engineering.
So, the crucial question isn't whether AI is going to replace you. The real question is, how are you going to adapt to use it? The AI is an incredibly powerful agent, but it needs a handler, it needs a guide. And in this new era of building software, the human who steers the agent is the one who's going to win.